Alright everyone, so real quick I'm going to go over some battles I had before the season ended with an Ultra Premier Cup team that I had. So it went pretty well with me. I went 5-0, and I'm also going to show a bonus fight, a bonus battle where I go up against a triple XL team. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. There's pretty cool fights. Really the only weakness, actually there's more than one weakness, but one of the biggest weaknesses of this team is Charmers, because it really hurts the Machamp lead and Gallade. What is going on with my video? Okay, there you go. So obviously we start off with Machamp in the lead. Poliwrath, pretty neutral matchup. Mudshot does get him to Dynamic Punch very, very quickly. So what I end up doing here is actually catching the Dynamic Punch after loading up a ton of energy on my Machamp. Catch it on the Gallade because I know it takes resisted damage because of the Psychic typing. And I'm not going to shield here because I know it's a Dynamic Punch. It hits, and then he ends up switching out to a Togekiss, which is pretty bad, but I'd rather get it out of the way now and not have to deal with it later. And from here, I can just send out my Empoleon and basically just completely farm it down. Waterfall does a lot of damage, so I can just farm it down. I think I do actually throw... No, I don't. Yeah, I don't throw anything here. I figured this was just going to be an Ancient Power, so I ended up letting it go. It turned out to be a Flamethrower, which is not good. But I was still able to farm it down right here. And I'm basically loaded up on so much energy. If he sends out his Poliwrath, I have Drill Peck, which is a great coverage move. I can deal a lot of damage with that. Takes a while here, but he ends up switching it out. Yeah, so I used Drill Peck here, which should do super effective damage. It wouldn't do that much, but it does a good amount, especially for not being for being non-stat. But there's a good amount of damage there. I get to do a second one in a row, and I believe he shields here. Yeah, I think he shields. Oh, he doesn't shield here. Okay, so he's gonna let it all. He's gonna leave it all to his Charizard right here, which is pretty interesting. I do have a lot of energy from my Machamp from the beginning, so while we do have 2 shields, both of us, I still have a lot of energy here, and I can bait with Cross Chop and end up getting a shield here. And at first, I was hoping that he would think I was going to bait again and go for the Rock Slide. He ends up shooting using a charge move here, so I'm going to shield it, obviously, because it might be Blast Burn or Dragon Claw or whatever. Still going to shield it. I was hoping that he would think it was another Cross Shot bait, but he ends up shielding this too. But because Machamp can get 2 Rock Slide very quickly, I can just get to another one. And it's basically GG's from there, so he leaves. And it's a good first game to my opponent. GG's. Moving on to the next battle here. That was my 517th win too. So, moving on to the next battle here. It's a pretty good team. Again, Charmers are a pretty big weakness, though. Double Charmers, like, destroy the team, basically. Alright, so moving on to the next battle here. Lapras, this is a good lead. That Ice typing is super effective. It's really good against my Machamp. Or it's really bad against my Machamp, technically. Sends out a Muck, but ends up being a Bite Muck. So, I know I still win this because Bite is resisted from Machamp. And Bite takes a very, very long time to get to the next charge move here. So I end up basically just destroying this Muck with Cross Chop. Muck isn't really the best Pokemon to use, and especially in Ultra Premier. It's not really the best. It's better. It's definitely better in Open Ultra. A lot better. But anyways, I get it super low. I can farm it down here. And then I'm not sure what he brings. He brings out a Togekiss, and I was pretty sure I could get to a Rock Slide here, but he ends up taking me out anyways. I'm able to send out my Empoleon here, and I can basically just continue to farm it down here because Empoleon is taking resisted damage because of Steel typing here. I end up throwing the Hydro Cannon here just because I knew he was going to get to another charge move, so I could at least pressure a shield on him. I end up using the Hydro Cannon. I do get a shield from him, meaning I knew he was going to throw a charge move here, or at least switch, because he was farming a lot of energy there. I end up just throwing a Drill Peck, which... Now thinking back to it, I should have probably not done that and saved that energy for when the Togekiss comes back. But I ended up using it anyways. switch to my Gallade, and knowing that I have 2 shields here, I know I can just farm him down here, or at least pressure the last shield here, and hopefully leave the Togekiss vulnerable. So I'm obviously going to shield this first one, even though I know it's a Surf. It's going to do a good amount of damage. And I just basically just farm down as much as I can here. And that's basically what I have to do here. He does have 1 shield left, so at this point I was thinking I could pressure the last shield on Togekiss, which is probably what I'm going to have to do anyways. I think he does let this go though, to save that last shield for Togekiss. Yeah, he lets this one go. And I was hoping I could get to a close combat here. I do end up getting it off, so obviously close combat would KO from this range, so he's going to end up shielding this, leaving him pretty vulnerable to a charge move from my Empoleon. But because I have no energy on it, it's basically pointless. So at this point, all I can do is shield the move and hope that it's not... hope that the next move that he uses, because he does have a lot of energy, isn't like Flamethrower or anything like that. Does get another move off, but because the first charge move was Ancient Power, I just figured he wouldn't have enough for an Ancient Power and a Flamethrower or something like that. So this is another Ancient Power, wasn't worried, and ends up finishing the Togekiss here. So GG's to my opponent there. Now it's 2-0 right here, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good team. Machamp wins a lot more battles than people would think. So yeah, alright, so next battle is actually a Drapion lead, which I've never actually gone against before, and I know because of the dark typing, dark typing would usually take super effective damage, but because of the poison typing too, it actually takes neutral damage, and it has infestation, and it's a pretty weak move. It does get energy pretty quickly, so I used a cross shot because I honestly I didn't really know what moves Drapion had here. So I was kind of curious and kind of wanted to stay in. He does end up blocking it, so at this point I know he's committed to using some kind of move that would do a lot of damage. And that's exactly why I don't shield it here first, because I knew he was going to bait. He was charging up. He was getting a lot of energy, excuse me. He's getting a lot of energy here, so I figured he was going to bait first. He ends up throwing another move. I was hoping this would be another Aqua Tail, but it turns out to be a Sludge Bomb. Still doesn't KO, and I end up getting a Rock Slide off. I was hoping this Rock Slide would KO because I thought Drapion was like pretty squishy, but it actually wasn't. It's a little bit tanky. I'd say like slightly above average maybe. I don't know. He ends up sending his Gallade, which completely destroys my Machamp. And really the only answer I have against Gallade is my Gallade. I knew he was a bit ahead on Confusions by 1, so he's obviously at close combat here. Close combat would do a lot of damage, so I decided to shield this, and since I have a Leaf Blade myself, I can pressure a shield here as well. And obviously I still have my Empoleon in the back. I was kind of hoping that he'd have like a Typhlosion or a Charizard or something like that. He ends up using his last shield. It turns out to be a Jellicent, which is not that good. Jellicent is pretty bulky here. Especially because water types is doing neutral damage. I mean, not very effective damage. So it's going to take a while here, and Jellicent can just fire off 2 Shadow Balls, and it's a GG's right here. So at this point, all I could do is try and get as much chip damage as I can right here. I get a Drill Peck off, which is pretty easy here. Boom. And then I can basically just continue to chip it down. I was hoping I'd get to another Drill Peck here, but he does have to use his energy to fire off a Shadow Ball here, which is good because now I can just completely farm him down with my Gallade, and I also have a shield for Shadow Ball or whatever move he's going to use, and I can just completely farm him down here. And with the last Pokemon remaining, I can just close combat, and hopefully that finishes him off. I'm going to shield this here because I figured it was going to be a Shadow Ball, and it is. So I shielded that. I have a lot of energy here. Close combat would deal a lot of damage, and I do that. Even though it's going to be resisted, I probably could have used double Leaf Blade, but I ended up just settling for the close combat, and I was 1 Confusion away from Leaf Blade and managed to get that one in. So that is another GG's to my opponent. Another pretty good lead. I think, what was the lead again? I already figured out what the lead was, but Machamp wins more leads than you would think. It's actually pretty good. And that Rock Slide can pressure a lot of shields from Dragonites and Charizards or whatever. So that was an awesome game. All right, moving on to the next match. Another Venusaur lead. Venusaur leads are pretty common, and Machamp does not do well against those. So I immediately switched to my Gallade. He switches into a Drifblim, which is not good. Because Drifblim resists all of my charge moves. Confusion does chunk though, so that's good. And I'm just going to let him waste all his energy on my Gallade and try and do as much chip damage as I can. I know Venusaur can still take a lot of damage from my Empoleon, obviously, but it's no good if it doesn't have, my Empoleon doesn't have shields here. So I definitely don't want to use my shields on the Gallade, and just basically try and do as much chip damage here as I can. Close combat might be better, but I wanted to do as much chip damage as I can, and close combat would give me a debuff, probably making this match go a lot quicker. So I just decided to try and farm down here. He does end up throwing his energy, or else I would get to another Leaf Blade and probably KO it or pressure shield, and the guy obviously didn't want that, so he settled to using all of his energy. I send out my Empoleon to farm the Drifblim down here so I can have some energy. If he sends out his Venusaur, I have a Drill Peck almost ready to go to either pressure shield or do a lot of damage. He ends up sending out a Snarl Muck. So I get to use a Hydro Cannon here to pressure shield here. Hydro Cannon would do a decent amount of damage. Empoleon doesn't do... It does okay against Muck. It really depends on how much energy Empoleon has, because Dark Pulse does do a good amount of damage against Empoleon. So shields are very important here, especially how you use them. I do use a shield here against the Dark Pulse. It would do a good amount of damage, so I just decided to switch here into Machamp because I knew I was trying to hopefully catch a Dark Pulse, but at this point I figured this is probably a Sludge Wave, so just to be safe, I'm going to shield it. It does turn out to be a Sludge Wave, and ended up being able to do that. At this point, I can get to a Rock Slide. Machamp does win CMP here, so I can get the Rock Slide off and do a good amount of damage here. Get that off. Not too bad. And then at this point, I can definitely get to another Cross Chop. I don't think Frenzy Plant KOs here, actually. Yeah, it doesn't KO here. It doesn't KO here, so I can get to a Cross Chop. Or Rock Slide. I actually ended up going for the Rock Slide. And I know I win CMP ties, so that wasn't an issue for me. He was probably trying to farm me down, but because I won CMP tie, it's basically I can get the shield from him. So at this point, I have my Empoleon left. I have to use a Drill Peck, or else Frenzy Plant would do so much damage. So I get the Drill Peck off and end up KOing the Venusaur. Now it's just his Muck left. Dark Pulse or Sludge Wave won't KO, so I get the Hydro Cannon off, and at that point it's a GG's from my opponent. And yeah, GG's. Empoleon is a great Pokemon in Ultra League, very reliable damage output, very consistent, and that's basically a GG's to my opponent here. Moving on to the next battle, another Venusaur lead. Switch to my Gallade immediately, and my opponent actually decides to stay in for a while here, and it's just farming down so much energy here. Now I have to commit a shield here because I obviously want to get a lot of energy on my Gallade, and Gallade with energy is extremely deadly, especially once you have double close combat. That is not good, at least for your opponent. Get a Leaf Blade off here because I have to at least pressure shield or be able to knock him out here. I end up getting off the next Leaf Blade here to hopefully pressure another shield or take him out. I do get the second shield, which is good. And at this point, I figured I could farm him down here, so I shield here. Shield the Frenzy Plant and farm him down. He sends out an Empoleon, which luckily for me, I have close combat, and this will literally just one-shot the Empoleon and just absolutely destroy him. So I get the close combat off here, and goodbye to Empoleon. That does get me a debuff here, so I'm expecting his Gengar to just farm me down, but I do so much damage with that confusion. At that point, a Shadow Ball won't KO my Empoleon here, so I go in with that. It's going to do a lot of damage, but my opponent ends up leaving, probably because of how much damage the Empoleon was doing. So that is basically a GG's to my opponent. And that's basically how I went 5-0 here. Alright, so moving on to the Triple XL team. Pretty crazy team. Whoops, that's not the start of the clip. So here I'm up against a Scrafty lead, which is good for me because of that dark typing. I deal super effective damage here. And I knew I could get to a cross chop here. I know I win CMP tie here. At least I was thinking that he would go for a charge move and I would win CMP. I don't think that was the case. I think he was actually still trying to get some fast moves off here. So I'm able to pressure shield here with cross chop. He does get a charge move in. And at this point I was thinking power punch won't do much, and I resist foul play here, so I did not shield. I farm him down a tiny bit more, and right on the cross chop he switches to Skarmory, and obviously that's not good against my Machamp because of those air slashes will do a lot of damage here. Switch to my Empoleon because that was really the only answer I had against him, and end up going for the Hydro Cannon here. His Sky Attack or his Brave Bird won't do too much damage because of that steel typing of Empoleon, so it'll be resisted. Get the Hydro Cannon off. He lets it go, meaning I can probably just farm down here. I'm not going to shield this because I'm obviously going to resist it. It won't do too much damage here. It is a Sky Attack, so not too bad. And then at this point, I could just farm him down and use that extra energy against the next opponent. If it's Scrafty or whatever, I can use Drill Peck to pressure shield here. He does end up getting a charge move off here. Whether if it's foul play or power punch, it will not KO here. It ends up being a power punch. So I can pressure shield here with Drill Peck. It was pretty close. He actually almost took me out to fast move desync or whatever you call it. But I'm able to get the Drill Peck off and pressure the second shield. I get him pretty low, and at this point I'm thinking I can just completely farm him down, or at least waste his energy because obviously I'd KO him and he'd waste all that energy. So I get him to use up all of his energy here. It is a power punch, which does not take me out, and I end up taking him out with the Machamp. So I switch immediately to not let the next Pokemon get an extra fast move in, and at this point it's an Umbreon. I have 2 shields. At this point I can basically just double close combat, and it's basically GG's here. I figured I wouldn't block this because at least it's not a last resort. I know it's not a last resort, so I ended up just letting that go. This one I know is a foul play because it was 3 snarls after the foul play. End up shielding this, of course. And at this point, I get to the 2 close combats here. I end up getting both of them off, and I get the dub here. So GG's to my opponent. Triple XL team. I don't think that Skarmory was actually maxed out, so that wasn't too bad. But GG's to my opponents. I went 5-0 here, or 5-0 previously, and I beat a Triple XL team here. So this team is very good. Charmers are a pretty big weakness, but you can definitely get around that. And that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to see more, subscribe and like. Thank you.